Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and a very special welcome with an apology up front. And I want to be fully transparent. This man we're about to introduce, he reached out 2 years ago, and this is not a good sales lesson, people. You do not ignore and don't respond to emails. But I want to thank him for his persistence, and there must be a sales lesson in this, Glenn, which we might or may not talk about. But you reached out via your was it assistant?
Yes, my booking assistant.
Yeah. Booking assistant, and we are now here 2 years later. So things are meant to happen. So
Yeah.
welcome to the podcast, Mr. Glenn Sandifer. Welcome.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you to the audience for the time today. Yes.
It's and look, I do want to apologize because when I was looking through before this conversation, I'm thinking, shit, Glenn's reached out to me 2 years ago, and I don't think I responded. That is just disgraceful on my behalf.
It's fine. You had a meeting, you were on a coaching call, and you put in your mind, I'm going to follow up there, and then something else happened. And that's how it typically works
Thank you.
in our
I
profession.
like the fact you've actually given me a little bit of an out there, but
I'm giving you an
I always talk about being exceptional, and exceptional does include responding to people who have the courtesy of reaching out to me. So,
Or
mate, yeah,
exceptional could be acknowledging it, because most people, and I may fall in this category, I wouldn't have even acknowledged that I didn't respond. Like, oh, I didn't? Oh, okay, let's move on. So that is very exceptional of you as a leader.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, looking forward to this conversation, Glenn. You're the founder of GSC National Nashville. You've got an extensive experience in sales leadership.
Mhm.
You've moved from consultant to corporate court. You've got an interesting background, which we're going to delve into, and you've got a lot of experience, certainly in security industry.
Yes.
So we're going to talk a lot about challenges, AI, building sales teams, driving revenue, demand generation, etc. I'm always curious though. I want to start off with where did it all start from you? Did you land in sales? Did you choose to be in sales? And what's kind of the pathway that has led you to now do what you do today?
My pathway would probably be like a villain arc in Marvel, if I was being honest. I originally had no desire to go into sales. As a matter of fact, my mother would remember this. The one thing I didn't want to do in going into college, in college, coming out of college, was to go into sales. And the reason I didn't want to go into sales was pretty clear. One, all my dad and all of the mentors said, don't go into sales. It's awful. But I had a passion for advertising and operations. I originally planned on being a QSR owner operator. So I
Okay.
was a part of one of the largest restaurant system. They're not a sponsor, so they don't get a plug. And I spent high school and undergrad and grad school working full time. Once I graduated high school and all through school, working in that system. And my plan was to return back after our graduation to Indiana, work in the stores at a corporate level, then stack money through stock splits, everything, and become an owner operator. Well, I went to school, I did that. I got burnt out on burgers and fries.
Mm.
And I said, I need to do something else. So I'm back, I'm interviewing, I'm trying to get jobs, and it was an awful market. We're talking 2005, 2006, coming out of grad school. And so I ended up going into advertising. So I
Mm.
was with a local ad agency for a 2 year period where I did everything from public relations, internal comms, external comms. I did all of the media relations kits. I managed a program for an external character that brought happiness to children, and had plenty of stories about this character, that all positive. And so I did that for 2 years. And then on the other side of my day, that was kind of my evenings and the weekends. And then during the day at the same agency, I ran advertising for this same brand. And so
Right.
that was everything from media, from out of home radio, TV. We were still doing newspaper. We were still doing print in the yellow pages. We were still that was the beginning kind of Google, Facebook, where really social didn't really take off to '08, but we started hearing rumblings of it through other ad agencies. So I did that. I loved it, but I was broke. I had two student loans that were due. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment, no cable, no internet, basically an Xbox for entertainment, two sets of towels, one bowl, and I said, I can't do this forever. I need to go into sales. And so I was recruited by a brand I will speak about by Samsung. And
Yeah.
so at that time, Samsung was not the player that it is today. It was the traffic generator in H Gregg, Fry's, ABC Warehouse, Best Buy. Now I'm starting to date myself, Sears, um, Radio Shack. So they were really trying to, they had this vision when I interviewed, and this was around 2007, saying, listen, we're not going to be the brand of Samsung that you know. We are going to premium and luxury,
Hmm.
and we want to bring people who understand the brand experience. You have a background where you've done advertising and public relations. We're going to
Yeah.
pull on that and grow. In that role, I was there for 5.5 years. I was the top sales performer 4 years in a row.
Nice.
They couldn't beat me. And so that was a combination of channel sale through those retail channels as well as a small business portfolio that I had to manage. And being in a state where I'm from, Indiana, that was unheard of. No one thought someone in Indiana would be able to be the top performer, outperforming New York, LA, Chicago, etc. So I did 5 years there, and then I was recruited out to a competitor, and that was my first sales leadership opportunity where I ran a sales team that was throughout the Midwest. Loved the role, loved that was my first real coaching because in the QSR world and in the ad agency, you're not the final decision maker. I mean,
Yeah.
you're running a system when you're running a store, and then in advertising, it still has to go through the owner or the VP of client, whatever. But this was the first time where my boss said, no, it stops with you. You are the one who needs to make sure that they develop. And I learned a lot of lessons around people then where everyone doesn't have the same motivation for showing up every day. They don't have the same
Mm.
motivation for saying yes to the job. They don't have the same motivations as they deal with friends and family or their purposes. And you really have to delve into a one-to-one relationship with people when you lead them. So that's what I learned there. Then from there, I got laid off. So that was the first time I had ever dealt with a layoff, and it really kind of solidified in me and kind of sparked, okay, I want to do more. So I'm going to be in corporate. I want to be at a leadership level where one, this doesn't happen like this again. And two, if I'm not, I need to make sure I need to start building something else that can be lasting. And so that was my
Mm.
first consulting practice. That was Glenn Sandifer Consulting of Indiana. And then it was shortened to Sandifer Consulting. And I focused specifically on some manufacturing clients, doing project management, program management, CRM migrations. And I did that for a period of 2 years. Enjoyed
Mm.
it, made a nice little living. I picked up number of contracts with when you start thinking of places like Kroger or Kroger is a big one. If Walmart, there were
Yeah.
merchandising contracts where I took the contract to manage the team and also did the work myself because
Okay.
they couldn't hire. And I said, I can hire. And it was fun. I remember being in Walmart doing end cap resets with four guys. We did 20 end caps and we had to get them flipped in less than 6 hours before the store reopened. And that was kind of my learning of an appreciation of being more hands-on. It combined what I did in the store, combined what I did when I was with Samsung because we were also merchandisers as well as sales professionals, and I loved it. And then that was when I transitioned into the security industry. I had a friend that ran a local branch in my home state, in the home city, and he said, I really need someone to come in who understands sales, who's not just going to be about the fluff, who can show the rest of my
The
guys
fluff.
how to get yeah, because if you think about it from an operator standpoint, that's what a technician would say. A
Yeah.
technician or an ops manager or a service manager would be like, all that fluff. Yeah. He was like, I need to get past that, and I need someone to come in, roll their sleeves up, get dirty. And at this time, I met my wife, and I was like, I need to get engaged. How much can you pay me? And he told me that I could make. And he said, wait, you've been in sales? I was like, yes. You've been in advertising? Yes. You have an MBA? Why would you do this? You asked me. And quite frankly, I'm just doing, if I can still do my contract stuff, I'll
Yeah.
come work for you as long as you allow me. So I went in, committed myself to the program. I had one contract that ended, and now we're talking about 2016. Contract ended. It was with Comcast, which is now Xfinity, which everyone hates in the US. Sorry, Comcast, you should sponsor me. But um, after that ended, I committed myself to that, and I was in the top 10% of sellers in less than 90 days. But I was
Wow.
awful on everything else. Service rate was high, rebills, rebooking, everything, because there were steps in the operation process I didn't really understand, which was okay. Because everybody came to the branch one day and it's like, "Hey man, we really like you. You're a really good guy. Have a nice spirit, but you're awful for this role. We're gonna move you to marketing." So they moved me over to marketing. Now, this time I let them know, hey, I have an agreement. I can still do some contract work. I have a couple of contracts that'll be closing out. Is that okay? And it's like, as
Yeah.
long as you're there every day at 8:30, we don't care. And
Yeah.
so I literally worked in 16, in the beginning of 17, full time for this company, the security company, as well as doing various contract jobs. So, and I say that, and I don't know if this is a lesson to anyone in the audience, but the reason I did all of the things that I did at the same time was, one, I was young, I had the energy and I had the drive, but also I was getting to learn new skills, and I was
Mm.
honing those skills as I picked contracts,
Yeah.
because otherwise I would have just been a sales rep. Otherwise,
Mm.
I would have just been a marketer. Otherwise, I would have just been in merchandising or CRM migration. So then we move ahead, and my wife and I are married now. We relocate here. That company is preparing to sell. They start hinting at layoffs because I had gone through one, and because I had gone through subsequent contracts being
Yeah.
canceled, even though people paid me out, but contracts were canceled for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter. I don't care. And I said, no, I'll take a package. And so I took a package, and that was my second now entity of Glenn Sandifer Consulting. And there I wanted to focus specifically on the home service vertical and supporting businesses such as contractors, painters, roofers, HVAC, plumbing, electric.
Yeah.
Because of all of the other work that I've done with my hands, I was meeting those people and hearing their stories and hearing how they conduct business. And
Yeah.
it just felt more natural than trying to go after enterprise level contracts. I did a couple. And the enterprise level contracts, just being frank, I couldn't wait till they were over. But those contracts with those small businesses, they were nice, quick sprints. It was whatever you say, we're going to do. Here's 40 grand to put into SEO. I don't know what I'm doing, but I just
Yeah.
need my phone to ring. And so that's kind of how I built my brand. And then COVID happened.
Mm.
So COVID happened, and everyone now is in the home, and so now my phone's ringing. I had taken a contract opportunity with a Tennessee-based organization. I was going to try to pivot and get back into the project management. Um, Plus, it was kind of a sales and project management. I thought it was a good hybrid. COVID hits. They have to lay off their staff. They come to me and was like, "Listen, you're on contract. We want to keep you around, but we just can't afford it." I was like, "Okay, don't worry about it. Just stay in
Yeah.
contact with me. I got some other things that I'm actually taking care of." And I got a call from what is now defunct Stanley Security. So Stanley Security called. The headhunter said, "We're looking to hire a manager of inside sales. We need someone with some recent experience managing inside sales." I was like, "Well, I've done a bunch of that in various different contracts and different stops, but I understand sales because I was
Mm.
successful when I had to carry my own quota. What are you looking for?" And they started going through, and I was like, "No, I can't do manager." And they were like, "Well, okay, right now it's a manager role." I was like, "I understand that, but I'm making really good money. I'm my own boss." I was like, I only have to please a client. I don't have to please a bunch of people up the chain. I'm not really interested in that." And we just let it go, continued to
Yeah.
work the contract. 30 days later, they called back. "We've upgraded it to director, and you'll report directly to the senior VP of enterprise sales, and you'll have his ear." And I was like, "Can I also get a direct contact with the CEO and the president of North America?" "Absolutely. They're going to be on your interview schedule." "Can I also have sales enablement and sales operation?" "That reports into two individuals, but you will be on calls with them." "And what is the marketing plan?" "We have a great VP of marketing. She'll love to meet you." I did. So that happened. And I said, "All right, well, talk to my wife." My wife was like, "Yeah, you're working 80 hours a week, and we have kids now. So I need
Yeah.
you." I need you to take that
Oh.
job. So I took it, fairness, and it was a great decision. So I took it, and ended up interviewing with the final two people. And this was the start of everyone who's listening to your call. They know panel interviews.
Yeah.
So panel was just kept getting larger every time I would jump on a link for, and I think we were using Skype then. Teams
Okay.
was a thing. Zoom was kind of there, but I think they were using Skype. So I had to set up a Skype account. And then I was just on calls, and there'd be one person, there'd be three, then it'd be five, then it'd be three, 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 all back to back. And then the final one with one gentleman who's really a good friend now, he put up the org chart. My name and picture was on the org chart. He was like, yeah, so this is what your team needs to, this is who your peers will be. This is what you'll do. So then you'll see, this is my team. This is the marketing team. So yeah, you'll have a really good thing. And I was like, excuse, are you offered? Oh, they haven't offered you yet? Yeah, you're getting offered. Let's move past that. So I respected him. Anytime I'm back home, I want to have a drink or dinner with him. Great guy. And so I did that. I'll pause for a second. That was kind of the journey that got me to my Marvel, what could be considered a villain arc, where now I have the privilege of serving as an executive leader for the second largest integrated guarding partner globally, number two in the US, and I have purview over North America. In my role now, similar to what I did at the times with Stanley,
Mm.
with Securitas Technology, and now with my current employer, it's just kind of been an evolution. Each role's been kind of a taking pieces of what I spoke to in different stops, where at first it's just inside sales, create the script, get on the phone, do
Yeah.
the CRM migration, help with the lead flow. Okay, what are we doing with SEO? Does it make sense? Is it on target? Can you help us generate a pipeline? Then it became inside sales and client success. We need you to start working on renewals. We need you to start doing some ad upgrades. We need you to start handling some of the retention issues and challenges we're having. Perfect. Then
Mm.
it became billing. We need you to deal with the billing issues from the former legacy Stanley accounts that we acquired that are now a problem. And so everything just kept growing. And then when I made the transition over here, my now boss, who's a good friend, basically said, I don't know what the role is. I just need you over here. And so that's kind of my now title, which encompasses commercial excellence. It has been everything from inside sales, client success, sales enablement, sales mentorship, sales operation, forecasting, planning, market strategy, go to market strategy, um, pricing, packaging, and then federated sales, where I have a sales team for a whole new service line
Yeah.
that apparently no one else wanted. So, but we're having a really good time.
We'll just
So
give it to
that's
Glenn.
it. That's it.
Love it. Love it. So there's a few things in there. I wanted to take you back to when your father and all the people around you said don't go into sales.
Yes, I'm going to sales.
If you look back, because as you've described that, you've got a fairly well-rounded um, history of experience in multiple different areas, which makes you a very marketable, let's just say, commodity in the marketplace
Hmm.
because you've got experience in CRM, small businesses, large businesses, demand generation, SEO sort of stuff, sales, enterprise sales, smaller business type sales, some of the challenges that appear at each of those different levels.
Hmm.
And then you turn around and say, well, your current director or manager says, I don't know what we're going to call the job, but I just need you.
Hmm.
How hard was it back in the day to jump into sales when everybody around you was saying, don't do it? And you look back now and say, thank God I didn't listen to them with the greatest amount of respect. And thank God I followed my, whether it be the gut instinct or your firm decision making. What's been the biggest lesson back then from back then?
So if I take a look at, thank God I didn't listen to them. I actually did. That's how I ended up in public relations, and I was broke. And
Mm,
so the hunger, I mean, during this time of the transition, the housing bubble hadn't hit yet. It started creeping in 2007, and I said I need to make sure that I can pay off this loan. So
yeah.
my decision to go into sales wasn't really out of a passion for solving problems. at scale. It was really about I need to pay these bills in order to make sure I have the life that I want.
Yeah.
So I and when I look at the decision from a practicality standpoint, it was the right decision.
Mm,
Um, but I can't take credit for having the instinct or the guts to say I wanted to go into sales because I didn't do it the first time I had the option. And,
yeah.
then, for the people in the audience that may be younger, there were jobs that it was commission only.
Mm,
So sales jobs at that time were commission only, meaning if you had a draw where they paid you until you hit a certain commission threshold, you didn't get it. I
mm,
didn't trust myself to deliver in that process.
mhm.
I The first time I did that was realistically was when I had my consulting practice because nothing was guaranteed.
Yeah.
It was only guaranteed at 30-day, 90-day increments. So you have to continue to deliver, and then you always have to be out prospecting. That's a
Mm,
sales mentality.
mm,
Because in sales, I like to tell individuals your pipeline tells me the health of your activities. Your activities tell me what you're doing all day, but if your activities don't deliver a pipeline of quoted business, we'll never get to close one because your pipeline is weak.
mm,
And I looked at it. I don't have the relationships. I don't have the experience. That didn't matter. It didn't matter to Samsung. It didn't matter when I first got into security. They just wanted people who were competent and capable, and I've just kind of lived with that. But I really think from that sales standpoint, that's kind of been the key and the driving factor.
mm. I love that. Love that. And so you've got a well-rounded, I guess, view of different parts of a business that has now
Mhm.
led you to do what you do today. Um, Love to talk to you, particularly in the environment that we are operating in right now. The macroeconomic times are uncertain. There's a lot of stuff going on around the world.
Mhm.
How do you, from your experience and having gone through things like COVID, having gone through things like the GFC and the housing downturn in
Mhm.
2007/8, as a leader, how have you dealt with, and has there been mentors in your career that's helped you get through those type of times where you've learned invaluable lessons that has enabled you now to provide certainty and in a leadership environment where people can thrive in areas of uncertainty?
Well, I think this would be more of a testament and a question to my current and former employees and anyone that I've managed on contract. But I'm a person of faith. I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That is,
Yeah.
I wear that on my sleeve. I wear it, and I'm authentically able to show up everywhere in my life that way. So that's the first thing. So when times get tough, I lean on my faith, and my belief and the tenets of my faith kind of guide me as a leader.
Mm,
What I have heard in the past week from current direct reports and past employees, you were the best boss. You were very transparent. You were detail oriented and you challenged me. You didn't allow me to rest and sit on my laurels. You made me grow in areas I could not grow. I have a firm belief that regardless of the macroeconomics, you can thrive
mm,
in the right environment because what we're not seeing is money. Money is not stopped flowing. It's
yeah.
still flowing and there are still transactions happening globally. So if those transactions are still happening globally, the system has decided the macroeconomic pressures is not going to completely bring it to a stop. You
Mm,
have to find where you can be. I tell people, and young men in particular who I speak to, if you're 18 years old, 18 to 33, put your head down. If you don't know what you want to do, I'm going to give you three options. The first is go get a job, work in a warehouse, not Amazon, where you got to lift things and then make a decision. Do I want to do this for 40 years?
yeah.
Second, pick first responder, law enforcement, or military. Go commit yourself to a system and a structure and find your way in there and work your way up. Or third, I say put your head down, learn a high value skill through education and through trade schools. And then from 18 to 22 will be your development. 23 to 25 will be kind of your expertise building.
Mm,
I'd say 29 to 32 will be your first real promotion or accelerant. And then at 33, you lift your head up and you take a look at the market. 15 years gives you 10 years of expertise. You'll have your 10,000 hours in whatever field you selected. So then things will start becoming easier for you. And if you don't know what you want to do, I offer two paths: trades or sales.
Mm,
Because sales is the ultimate truth serum. You cannot hide behind numbers, you can't hide behind a degree, you can't hide behind previous work. We go from quarter to quarter with
mm,
salespeople. And if you're not pulling revenue through relationships or business development, you have to be outbound prospecting in order to make it work. And what I try to teach in my environment, regardless of the macroeconomic times, is sustainability and self accountability. I hire people only that have the grit, they're coachable, they're adaptable. And if they have those three traits, I believe, and my former boss told me this on a call one day. He said, if you put a tomato can in front of a Zoom, I think you'd be able to coach them up to quota.
mm. Tomato can.
I'm going to say who it was. That was Kyle Gordon. He was like a tomato can. He's like, you just put that tomato. He was like, I've never seen someone come into an organization as quickly as you did and build influence, build a reputation, and grow people. He's like, so how did you get there? And it was the same answers that I just gave you: my relationship with Christ, my
Yeah.
discipline. And then I think the thing that helps me, that makes it relatable, people, I don't like to get too high because I have a boss, and my boss will know this, and my chief commercial officer has heard me say this a bunch the last couple of months. I'm like, it's your company. You tell
Mm,
me how you want me to do it. I can give suggestions based on my experience, but I'm
mm.
going to defer to you as always.
Yeah.
And that has freed me from fighting with leaders.
Yeah.
So I've done that the previous 5 years, and it's been successful. Um, but just having a servant's mind and a servant's attitude towards your people really provides that long-term growth and that consistency that most individuals are searching for.
So let's talk about that because I'm a firm believer, as you just articulated there, in servant leadership, and the role of a leader is you're there to serve your team and help your team become as exceptional as they possibly can be in the environment that you create as quickly as possible.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, a lot of leaders, particularly in sales, get promoted into a sales leadership position because they've been a very good individual contributor. They may
Hmm.
have been in the top 5 percentile of sales, and they then, because of that, they get thrust into a leadership role and they can't make that transition. So, what do you put it down to that you have done differently that you
Hmm.
see others in maybe same companies or in companies that are sort of competing with you where they don't have that environment, where they don't have people who have the grit and all the qualities that you talked about, because it's a very unique thing. And a lot of sales leaders, when I say this respectfully, believe their own rhetoric, and
Hmm.
they have an overinflated opinion of themselves, and they're very good
Hmm.
at building a big profile. But you've just said, I'm going to default to you because this is your business. I've got some ideas, but even with that, you've got quite a servant's approach, servant's attitude.
Yeah. So I mean, the if you take a look at it from a servant leadership, I I don't know. People tell me I'm confident. I'm not saying that I am confident, but people tell me I exude confidence. I just told you my story. I've been laid off. I've
Mm,
had contracts canceled. I have failed multiple times. So I always live with the moment, the realization that you could fail, but
mm,
history over a 25-year period has told me you can always bounce back.
yes.
So I no longer live with the fear of, okay, well, something can go wrong if I say this. That's not what they pay me for. And I tell my boss this. I was like, you pay me a lot of money to do a lot of great things, but the one thing that I'm always going to do is be honest with you, uh, and base it on not just my feeling, but on the data.
Mm,
And I think that approach will serve a lot of leaders. Listen, we as sales leaders, we do tend to buy our own rhetoric, especially if we've been in one vertical for 15, 20 years.
yeah.
We begin to think that the way that we're doing it is the best thing since sliced bread, and that may not be the case. I think having mentors in place like I've had mentors in the QSR space. I have mentors at Samsung. I have relationships from Samsung that I still can pull on to this day. I've had owner operators. I've had managers I've had owners of some home service verticals. I have owners of security integrators that I could text right now at 9:45 and they would reply. But we all keep each other humble. And
Mm,
that's what I learned from them. And they are more successful than me. They are humble. They are
mm,
not appearing the way the world tells us that most leaders show up. They are appearing to their people with the servant leadership. I have a boss, two bosses, but I really have nine other ones because I'll look at my teams and I got all type of messages from everybody across all of those different areas that I touch asking me to weigh in on something, and it's a privilege to do that. So
mm,
sometimes I think we get caught up as leaders like, man, they need to be so lucky to have me. No, it's a privilege to do that. They're asking you your opinion. Lean in and give them the help and the support that they're looking for. And one thing a mentor told me, never take credit. Let
yeah,
them heap the credit and the praise on you. Um, and it'll be caught up. My last boss, he told me that after 2 years of reporting to him. I don't think you've ever said I did. I was like, I'm sorry, what does I did mean? I did this. I delivered this. I was like, my team did the delivery.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's weird to me. He didn't trust it. He thought it was. He thought he was like, no,
There's
you're
some sort of angle.
yeah, he was like, you have an angle. And then he realized as our relationship continued to grow, he was like, oh, okay, this is who you are. Okay, you're a great guy. Okay, I appreciate it. And this is authentic. And I have no choice but to show up authentically each and every day because that's what my father did as he was an executive. So my mother did as she was an executive. And that's what my mentors have all done. And it's what they've all coached around.
And it's such a attractive quality. And the fact that you talked about the fact that I don't take the credit, but I guarantee you when the proverbial hit the fan, you would have taken the responsibility because that was on me.
Oh yeah, if I and and we're in sales, so we've all had to do rifts, reductions in forces
Mm,
as a part of layoffs, and I can take the compassion with that because I've been on the other end of that call,
yeah.
and I have to own that. We had to
Mm,
make that decision. Well, it wasn't because our team didn't perform, it was a business decision. Well,
yeah.
I have to own the culture hit for
Yeah.
that. And I
Yeah.
have to be the one that leans back in to rebuild the culture or to strengthen the culture around
Yeah.
something like that. And um, I think that, from a leadership standpoint, just take titles out of it. Leading is finding an opportunity and finding a way to influence others to their success. If others are not being successful, but you are, that's a problem because it's not scalable if it's just you. I think the second part of your question you asked about individual contributors that get promoted to manager, that's the worst way to do it. I will never move off of that. It's someone we look at a specific, and I'll talk about Stanley since it's no longer in
Yeah.
existence. We looked at the leadership profile as not the top contributor because we found that every time you put a top contributor in a leadership role, the production dropped and they didn't do the team. My theory, and if your audience will give me some leeway, it's the same problem with greatness in sports.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson's sons are not good. Michael Jordan's sons are not good. Who are the greatest players right now? Steph Curry. His dad was a middling, mid-level veteran on several different teams.
Yeah.
So he's historic. And it's the greater you are at a particular craft, the harder it is for you to pull that out of other people. That's
Mm,
why in the NBA and in the history of basketball, Phil Jackson is considered the greatest coach. He has two titles as a player and 10, 9, 9. He has 9 as a coach, 9 or 8 as a coach. So he has 10 total rings. He wasn't the best player for the New York Knicks in the 70s. He was Dennis Rodman. He was the one diving on the floor, being weird. And then he came into the league to coach and he realized I got this guy that's ball headed, that's dunking and winning the MVP and defensive player of the year and all team and scoring titles. But the first thing he told Michael Jordan is, yeah, you're not going to score 30 more a game. And
mm,
Michael Jordan saying, whoa, what do you mean? Yeah, you scoring 30 a game puts all the defense on you. I need you to spread that out to your team members. And so Michael was able to take that coaching from Phil That's why Phil was so great at it. He wasn't the best player on those Knicks championship teams. He wasn't the
Yeah.
best player. He wasn't even the best coach. He developed into that, and he got buy-in from the top individual contributor. Michael Jordan tried to be a coach. Magic Johnson tried to be a coach. Charles Barkley did, Dominique Wilkins, all of these 80s greats and 90s greats. And the best coaches that have come out of that are Steve Kerr, the three-point
Mm,
shooter on the Bulls dynasty and
mm,
with the San Antonio Spurs.
yeah.
Because you don't necessarily want to have your top person in that leadership role unless they have expressed it and they have exhibited the traits of leadership, which are more around servant leadership, coaching, and developing than production.
Yeah.
Because if someone is great at production, I always say just stay in production and make 300, 400 a year. Why would you move into management? I mean, everyone, the top producers who are listening to this podcast are watching right now. They
Yeah.
make $500,000 a year and they're in the bed by 8 o'clock every night. They're putting deals and they're putting things together, but they don't have to deal with reduction in force. They're not looking at P&L. They're submitting their expense report late. That's a pretty
Hmm.
good life. And if you're in that and you're considering moving into leadership, know that that's going to flip. It's going to become about you managing that persona. So
Yeah.
that'll be a challenge for you. And
Yeah.
then having the bottom third of any sales team, your job is to bring them up to the middle.
Mm,
That is going to be the majority of your time. So, where I think former great individual contributors who go into leadership struggle is with that. Why doesn't he get it? Why is Darren struggling with this script? Why is he not
yeah.
understanding how we bundle and how we price? How is he not understanding the competition?
Yeah.
You haven't coached it. You haven't brought it out of him.
Yeah.
And I think that people really need to you really need to take a look at that. At any boardroom, any executive leadership team needs to always take a look at what would be the impact of promoting that contributor.
I think it's a great point you make, and I love those stories about the players in the NBA and the coaches that perhaps don't necessarily translate into like from a great player into a great coach. Happens in the same thing in a lot of the sports over here in Australia, AFL footy, Australian rules footy, rugby, cricket, and stuff like that. Which makes it interesting that why is it then that a lot of organizations still default to as a prerequisite to promote somebody into a sales leadership role, they have to
Mhm.
be almost excelling in their individual contributor role. It's almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah, I think it's a rite of passage. I think I do see value with you being a top contributor before you go into management because if you've never carried a bag,
Mm,
it's going to be very difficult in those dog days of summer at the end of Q4 to know how to motivate your team to go after it.
mm,
At the end of the day, if they need me to, I'll jump on a plane and I'll go see a client. If they need me to jump on a call and escalate an inside sales call off of a proposal, I'll do it because I
mm.
did it already.
Yeah,
So I think there is some rite of passage to being that. I don't necessarily believe that you need to be 100 or 240% to plan
yeah,
in order to get to that. But I think if you're 78 to 90% to plan and you're exhibiting the characteristics we need to see in leaders, I
yeah.
think that is the better choice
I love that.
than the person who's over now. If that person who's been there 20 years and then they're saying, listen, I just want to retire, I don't want to be driving a quota anymore. The first question I would ask them is like, okay, so are you ready to be frustrated 24/7 and work with individuals and bring them up to your skill set at the end of your career? Well, no, then you need to stay in your current role
Well,
because it's not going to serve you and it's not going to serve the company for us to make that decision.
no, and it'll end up reducing the performance and the numbers in
Mhm.
the organization as well. It's because the other thing you mentioned before, a person that's sitting there making three, four, 500,000 a year as a salesperson doing really well, as soon as they get into management, they have to understand that
Big
that sort
drop.
of that's a big drop.
Yeah, that was when I went into management when I left Samsung. I was like, oh, I'm in management. Yeah, your base is this. Then my earning potential, I was like, wait. I was like, when I was an individual contributor, I was like, oh, that's for the contributors. You're just a manager. I was like, oh,
What am I doing? What
what
am I
am I
doing?
doing?
And I
And I was
found
like,
out
I
the
made the
hard way
wrong
as well.
decision.
Yeah,
I made the wrong decision.
yeah,
And we're talking sometimes when I talk to people about sales, they don't believe that people are making 300, 400 a year.
yeah,
I'm like, guys, it's most jobs, they all have a bonus and a commission structure, and which is why earlier I talked about 18 to 33. If you don't know it, trades or
yeah,
sales. Because in trades, you can run two trucks and make $500,000 a year
Mm,
on HVAC or electric. In
mm.
sales, in 10, 15 years, you should be at 300 and you'll stay there because you've established yourself as the expert.
Yeah,
We have people here in our local city as a part of BNI groups, Connect Nashville, Toastmasters, Chamber of Commerce. They've been selling for the last 25 years. They just do the same thing, repeatable processes over and over, and they're almost pulling $1 million.
yeah, yeah,
And so it's like, if I tell people, if you're in a job and you're in a rut and you don't like it, every sales manager is trying to hire a new salesperson. It happens every quarter. It's the one job that every company, regardless of market factors, they're still hiring for. If you
totally.
go in, commit yourself to a program, you get into a sales methodology. So if you want to do, I say band or med pick or something like that, learn that methodology, go into a program, and then get into the company and just learn. At the end of the first year, you may make 60. Second year, you may make 90. Third year, it's going
Mm,
to pop. You're going to be at 150, and then you'll be at 190 to 300 every year, every subsequent year.
mm.
Because by the time you get there, you've seen enough. Like where I got good, I had seen enough in the home with customers to know, okay, this is a 3111 for a security system. Let me go ahead and add a camera here, camera there,
Yeah,
versus the marketing person telling me, yeah, you guys should sell 4 cameras in the house. We would never sell 4 cameras in the house. Why? Because of the data requirement for that. We got
yeah,
wireless cameras and they require 2 gigs per camera. And most of our homes are on light by
yeah,
Comcast. So we
yeah,
won't be able to put 4 cameras in. They're going to have issues. We can't put them above 10 feet, but you start learning those things. So anyone who takes
yeah,
that same methodology and applies it to the sales role that they're in, they can find the success that they're looking for.
yeah, absolutely. So one thing I wanted to ask you, Glenn, is from a sales leadership perspective, with your background, the different experiences you've had. When you're looking, because there'll be sales leaders listening to this and thinking, well, yeah, I'm expanding my team. And what I see a lot is sales leaders building one-dimensional teams. So when it comes to attributes, characteristics of what you would consider ideal salespeople in any industry, right?
Hmm.
Are there certain key qualities that you've got to have as absolute non-negotiables?
Hmm.
And how do you look at variety and how much does variety play a part in how you attract talent to build a multi-dimensional sales team that will, over time, deliver sustainable success?
Well, I start with the simple premise. I think I spoke about it earlier. You need to be adaptable, coachable, and have grit.
Mm,
Those are the things that I look for or that are universal. They're non-negotiables. If I get the sense that you're entitled, I'm not going to hire you. If I
yeah.
get the sense that you want to do it your way and there's not a better way, I won't hire you. So I think once you have those characteristics to create a multi-dimensional sales organization, I start looking for different backgrounds. When I started at Stanley, one person had a security background,
Okay.
and I had 6 new hires. One
Yeah.
came from real estate, one came from healthcare, another came from operations and was a bartender, another came from SaaS, and then another came from the corrections world.
Okay.
That's what I hired. And then that team expanded from 6 to 8, 8 to 12, 12 to 25, 25 to 40, 40 to 60. So we did exponential growth over a 2 year period. And I wanted to make sure that I kept bringing in people with diverse backgrounds. Uh, I welcomed everyone to have a voice on specific calls, especially if they were a subject matter expert. And that's kind of how I developed it. I think sales leaders have to really be clear on their non-negotiables because what we tend to do in corporate now, and this is
Mm,
not necessarily for, startups, there's this need for consensus. And if you talk to enough people, you will talk yourself out of a decision.
mm,
But if you know and have your non-negotiables, then when people begin talking about the decision, as long as it doesn't take into account that these non-negotiables are non-negotiables, you'll be in a better situation. So you can hear everyone's opinion. You'll be like, yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
no, they're not gritty. We're not hiring them. That
Yeah.
person's not coachable. I'm not moving them over to my team. That person is not going to be adaptable. The minute I pivot, and in my space, I pivot a lot, and I have an adaptable team, so they pivot along with me. I'm transparent in the effort, and I say, look, we're going to move here. You got another
Mm,
day where you're doing that, and then we're going to pivot to this outbound campaign. And I think you have a well-rounded individual and a well-rounded team. I mean, I think I told people when I went back to corporate that my aim was to launch the future leaders in the security space because we needed bench depth. I
mhm.
came in, I was considered young. I'm not, because people still get shocked at how old I am. They're like, what? I was like, yeah. You thought I was a little 31-year-old guy from with a tech background, didn't you? And when you start looking, I wanted to bring in people who had different backgrounds because in our industry, most people don't leave it. They're in it
Mm.
their entire career. So they don't know how the rest of the world does business. They
Yeah,
understand how the clients do business, but they haven't been in it. So I wanted people to come in and bring in those diverse backgrounds. Um, and I think that has served us a lot. Now I have team members that have been with me 2 stops, 3 stops, and they kind of know my voice. It's easy
yeah,
for me to say, I need you guys to go figure that out. They know
yeah,
exactly what I mean. And then they come back, all right, this is what we know you wanted us to do. This is what we did. 5-minute call, boom, we have a consensus. Let's get marketing on it. Let's go ahead and get the email cadence and let's start making the dials.
yeah.
So I think by having those non-negotiables, that has freed up a lot of the emotional capital it takes being a leader by knowing that
Mm.
you have people. My only concern now is that I have couple of people on my team now where they're eventually gonna have to leave me. I say that if I do my job, you're eventually gonna have to leave me because someone's gonna come in and want you to run an inside sales or a client success program, and I'm gonna be like, "Ugh, go ahead and go," which happened at the last stop. 3 left in succession, and I was happy for all of them. Still stay in contact with all of
Well, and that's the key. That's one of the key principles, and I'm conscious of time as well. But that's one of the key things you want to do as a leader is not
them.
have your team be ring fenced into the organization, remain in the organization to make you look good. Your job as a sales leader is to help your team become so proficient and capable of what they're doing that potentially they outlive the role they've got and they go
Hmm.
and add value somewhere else because you've had a part to play in that.
Yeah, that's exactly how I look at it.
Yeah, love it, love it, mate. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I realize it's it's pretty late now in in Nashville, so I do appreciate your time
No
in
problem.
having a conversation, mate. When people are listening to this and watching and they want to know a little bit more about you and where
Mhm.
to connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, best place will be www.glennsandifer.com. That has all the connections to my social pages. So I'm available from business discussions on GSC Nashville, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on Facebook and X. But then also you can catch me on LinkedIn. GSC has its own page, but then I'm also available if you want to connect from a business standpoint about all things security on LinkedIn as well, at Glenn
Perfect.
Sandifer. Mhm.
Love it. I'll put all that on the show notes and I encourage people to reach out. Mate, if there was one final parting message, and I really appreciate you sharing today. You've got a very interesting background. You've done a lot of different things and a lot of different roles. Looking forward to 2026 and beyond, and we kind of mentioned the macroeconomic and the fact that you can look at that or you can focus on your own stuff. And if there was one piece of advice to sales leaders today with the
Mhm.
challenging times or an aspiring sales leader for them to focus on and really hone in on, what would that one thing be?
I would tell an aspiring sales leader to find mentorship. So find one person who's doing exactly what you believe you want to do and take them to coffee, take them out for a lunch because people always like lunch and coffee in business, and just begin to pick their brain because they will help accelerate your learning curve. As we look at the macroeconomics for existing sales leaders that are living kind of in these crazy times, understand that this too shall pass, and the individuals that thrive and will be the next set of leaders, 1 or 2 levels up, will be the ones that were able to endure this season and thrive with their existing teams. So
Mm,
keep your head down, keep grinding at it, keep developing, spend time with your family. If you're a person of faith, spend time in the Word, spend time in your church or your mosque or synagogue, and
Yeah.
make sure that you have the appropriate balance to help you be the best version of yourself.
Love that. What a wonderful way to finish a great conversation, my friend. So, thank you. Great conversation, and thank you so much for being a wonderful guest on the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast.
Thank you, Darren. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, mate.
Chat soon.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com, and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.